Hey, everybody, and welcome to the pilot episode of After Turn 6, a Marvel Snap podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Shaw, and with me are my two co-hosts. I got Adam Filipchuk. Adam, say hello.
Hey, Pat, how's it going?
I'm doing great. It's good to be part of this new endeavor of ours, and we'll talk a little bit about this as soon as I introduce our other co-host, Shawn Hill. Shawn, how you doing?
Hey, man, I'm good. Nice cap.
I know this is like an everyday part of my life here, so I'm super jazzed up and ready to go here. Yeah, Marvel Snap, right? We love the game, loved it so much that the combat chain, which is our parent entity here. We are kind of veteran Flesh and Blood players, and yeah, well, we like to play the game. I don't know if all of us are as successful as we could be in it, but we do love it, and we do produce content for Flesh and Blood regularly. And on the Discord, it turns out everyone, or at least very much us, all kind of converged in on Marvel Snap to the point we added the section on the Discord, and now it's probably the most active part of our Discord at this point, and now there's the next logical step. Now we can't shut up about it, so we're gonna put something out there for the world to hear. So let's talk a little bit about our Marvel Snap experience here before we keep going here. So we'll start with Adam. Tell me about your Marvel Snap experience thus far.
Well, I'm still actually in a lot of ways super new to the game. I knew about it when day one hit, and I downloaded it and played it for a quick second, and for some reason it didn't click then. And then fast forward to December 24th, so just a little over a week ago, I picked it up again because I don't even know why. Something in me moved me in that moment to go, you know what, we should open Marvel Snap again. And for some reason, then it clicked. Since then, I can't put it down. I'm up to collector level 1093, and I've been hanging around 50. I've been as high as 54 for rank. Still missing some key cards to really make some decks shine, and I'm getting out muscled in some matches, but we're having a blast. This game is so much fun.
Very cool.
It is indeed, Shawn. Yeah, tell us about your Marvel Snap experience so far.
Well, my Marvel Snap experience, it's a little weird. I'm a big fan of Ben Brode. He's a game designer who was the first designer on Hearthstone, and so when I heard that he had opened his own studio and left the Hearthstone team, I kind of was like, I think it was called Second Breakfast, and I said, oh, this is great. I can't wait to see what he's going to release. And then he came out with the first tweet at some point saying, hey, we're working on a game for Marvel. It is a card game. We didn't really know anything about it at the time. And I said, whatever, I have this rule, man. If there's a card game coming out, I'm playing it. I love card games. I'm a card game historian of sorts, and I just love playing everything. And so when the game first came out, or a couple weeks before, we actually had Flesh and Blood Nationals, and I saw Flake, Matt DeMarco, play the game at Nats. He was just messing around. I was like, oh, is it any good? And he's like, it's good. And so when it came out, I started playing it, and I've been playing it every day, at least trying to get my dailies in every day since launch. And I think it's a fantastic game. I have some gripes with it, but in general, I think it's it's a very good game. It's well designed, and that's where we're all playing it, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I'm kind of I think I'm in the middle between the two of you. I've been playing for a couple months now. I got the Black Panther pass. Yep. That's where I started there, and I think it was at the beginning of that season there. So we're just rounding the bases here on the Silver Surfer season. So I started there. I am CL 2588 because I'm a degenerate. Yeah. I think my highest rank has been 55 though. I started out super aggressive. I was pumped to get new cards, right? That's always been my deal. I want to crack a pack and get the cards. So that translated into rushing through the collector's levels as fast as I could. So there's a lot of people who were on the strategy of conserving their card pools and only playing in that pool 1, pool 2, pool 3 level and trying to get to rank infinite with those. I was already I was in 500 something when I was like, oh, okay. So immediately went through, just hit the wall of all the cards, and so even now, anytime I start a season, I have everything. So it's just a tough slog. And right now, even I went to 51 the other day, and I'm at 46 right now. So that's the story of my life. My win rate is positive, so we got that going for us.
Well, that's hilarious. That you're like, every time there's a new thing, and here I am like trying to scrounge together like missing parts of collections and building weird decks. And actually, I without tooting my own horn, I got to 64, I think. And I was like, I did this without Patriot and without all the good cards.
Yeah, and that's if you can get that parity there, I think that people get kind of a leg up. So been in the quicksand basically since day one. So after turn 6, Marvel Snap is 6 turns. We're structuring the podcast like that game. So turn 1. Intro, we just did that. Turn 2, we're going to talk about some of our favorite decks that we play in Marvel Snap. Shawn, why don't you start us off? What do you like to play these days?
Oh boy. Well, look, I like number one. I'd like to play certain decks, and like we'll figure out later on. Some of my gripes with the game is there's some decks I'd love to play, but I just don't have the cards. But a deck that I do love, and I think that if you're new to Marvel Snap and you're trying to get into the game and you're stuck in like Pool 2 and starting to unlock a few cards from Pool 3 and so on, I love Destruction. I think it's such a fun archetype to play, and I'm talking like Venom, Carnage, Nova. I personally play a deck that I call Death Wave, or Zola Death Wave, which is wave with death, with Killmongers and Carnages and all that. And the whole concept of the deck is, get death on the field or make a really big potato Venom, and then play Iron Zola, get everything off the board, copy your Venoms, and you have 20 some odd power on the board. If you have Taskmaster, that helps too. That's a deck that I personally love. I also love the Jubilee deck because I'm a big sucker for the 1990s X-Men cartoon. Yes. And so I love going, Jubi into like Odin. That's a really good feeling. Or like Jubilee. If you Jubilee and hit Infinite, it feels like such an unfair thing to do, but it's so much fun. That deck is made much more degenerate by Wong, which I do not have currently.
You don't have Wong yet? Those are my two.
I don't have Wong. Dude, I don't have Wong.
What's wrong with you?
I don't have Wong. I don't have Patriot. I don't have Bast. Like all the good. I don't have Mr. Negative. Like all the good meta decks. I'm missing so many cards. I'm missing so many cards.
And you're CL. Like you're 20 some as well, right?
Yeah. I'm just getting to. I'm at 1980 something. Okay. So I'm just getting to 2000, and probably will be like within the next couple of days. But that's again, we'll talk about that stuff later. The game's great, but like I can't believe that I've been playing the game for months and I still don't have like Wong, Patriot, and a few like Ultron and a few cards that it's like you should have these by now.
You know what I mean? 100%.
For sure.
There should be a better. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
I've been playing. I have been, so I think I have kind of the edge on some of the stuff because I have pushed through the collector's levels so hard. And so at 2588, I really pushed through the collector's levels. I got the bundles with the credits too. So I upgraded everything. And that's my, that's where it sparks joy for me to get the bundles with 8,000 credits, and I like to do the mass upgrades when it happens. So I push through the collector's levels real quick, and I get like a chunk of cards at once. So I'm still at 2588. I know that I am 3 short of completing Pool 3. That's where I'm at right there. I think I have 2 Series 4 and I have 0 Series 5 cards. So let's talk about what I've been running lately. My favorite deck is the movement deck, a Heimdall-based movement deck. I affectionately call it Move Bitch. It runs my favorite variant so far is the Human Torch. So I love doing like an Iron Fist into Human Torch to get them moved. And then if you do like Iron Fist, Human Torch into like Doctor Strange, and maybe follow up with like a Cloak, Human Torch just gets so crazy, super, super quick. I use Captain Marvel as like my little secret weapon. Low-key favorite card in the game is Captain Marvel. So at the end of the game, it goes to wherever it needs to win you the game. I also run a destruction deck as well. It has Deadpool in it. It centers around death getting zeroed out as quickly as possible when we do that. Deadpool exploitation and getting basically the same thing. Potato, Venom, huge. Get Taskmaster out there. Try to get Death out there really cheap. If you can get both Death and Taskmaster, things are really good. I do run the meta stuff. Like I go on Snap Zone all the time, see what the tier decks are. I've had a lot of success with non-Galactus ramp, so I run that Electro ramp with that goes into like Leech, Leader, Doc Doom, and like Magneto, that kind of thing.
Super good.
Discard is a good variant that I like to play, and there's two kinds. There's the kind of Apocalypse stuff, and then there's the Hela stuff, which is kind of like a combo deck, but you try to cut up. I have Giganto, Infinite, and Death as like my top hitters, with Red Skull and Captain Marvel in there as well, and you try to set up basically an Invisible Woman and two other discard spells like Sif and like Swordmaster, and then you drop Hela in as the fourth on the location. So at the end of the game, you discard the giants in your hand, and as you reveal the discard outlets, and then Hela comes in and drops everything else in. It doesn't always work out perfectly, but when it does, oh man, it's so cool when it works. But yeah, so I've run out of deck space. That's where I'm constantly putting things together.
There's a max to
putting
the
funny
decks.
names on them.
There is, yeah.
It is 20.
Oh, it's 20?
It's 20.
Man,
I had
I'm
no
the guy.
idea.
I build one deck. It doesn't work out for like more than like 10 games, and I delete it and I build something else.
I have deck 19 is up, and that is actually, it's not a deck right now. It's for later in the podcast. Deck 18 is an iteration on your the Quinjet Dino thing.
Yeah, I love that.
There, I have Seracle, Surfer, Cerebro, 2-power. I have a deck called What Is It You Do Around Here? Oh, that's my Patriot deck. That's right. I forgot I named it that.
Patriot.
Negative Surfer, Wakanda, discard Lockjaw. Yeah, Bayro, good stuff. All sorts of crazy stuff here. So that's me. Adam, what are you running these days?
So to pick a favorite deck at this point, still a little hard for me, just because of, like, really, I've been playing for the better part of a week. I have some favorite cards. I think, like, if I had a pet card right now that's, like, I just really want to make work, I managed to get my hands on Darkhawk. And...
Oh man! Oh, I'm so jealous.
So good.
So jealous.
Yeah,
that card is
and
so good.
I'm trying to, like, because with my limited access to Pool 3 still and Pool 4, having a Pool 5 card and trying to synergize with it's a little hard, but I'm trying to do things like Rock Slide and Korg, and then beast them back, and then do it again, and then Odin on top of it, and I don't know, it's fun. It's all good fun. That's what it is. The movement stuff's really cool. The destruction stuff's really cool. I really enjoy doing Venom into Taskmaster as well. Yeah, everything is so much fun right now at this point. Like, just for how long I've been playing, like, it's a blast.
Mm-hmm. It's all fresh.
It's exactly.
Yeah, right.
And it's
exciting. Moving on to turn 3, the final locations being revealed, and Zabu is incoming with the next season pass. Let's take a quick look at Zabu, the card.
So I'll let you do that, because I've been obsessing over Zabu since it's been revealed, which I think was a couple days back. And like, I love Sarah, and seeing Zabu, I'm like, how are they printing more cards like this? How are they letting us play with more cards like this?
It's definitely enticing.
I've got it.
So
up
we
here,
have. Oh, I do as well.
Oh, go
so
ahead.
So Zabu is a 3-cost 2-power hero. What are they? Heroes? What do we call these?
I think they're called characters.
So the character is a 3-cost 2-power character, and it has an ongoing ability that says your 4-cost cards cost 2 less, minimum 1. So spicy stuff right there. So it's a season pass card. So while we're let's talk about season pass. How do we feel about that? How do we feel about season pass access to these cards?
Boy, do I have opinions. Adam, you want to go first?
It feels a little pay to win. I'll just say it,
Yeah.
play it straight out. Yeah.
They have. I know. I came in at Black Panther, but I know is Death was also season pass.
I can't remember
Character.
if it was Death. I can't remember if the first season pass was Death. I came in with Black Panther as well. I think it's the first time I ever spent on a season pass.
Mm-hmm.
And like when Black Panther came out, for like a little bit, people were freaking out because Black Panther with Wong and Zola, you could just
Sure.
like bomb
Yeah.
locations. You'd go like
It's still one of my
Forge.
favorite things to do. If you
Yeah.
do Zola on a Wong if you have Wong Panther and,
Mhm.
and put Zola in there, if you time it right, it's going to take both of them. But if you get the right sequence, it'll put Wong first, and so Wong will populate the two locations, and then the second on reveal will hit, and then your Black Panther will land on the two locations with Wong, and they'll
Yeah.
double again. It's just
And then you make everybody sad. I think it's 128.
I think
And like
it might
it's
be more than
128.
that.
I don't. Yeah, it's something silly. And like cards like Shuri and Nakita or Nakila, I can't remember her name. The one
Yeah,
that gives
Nakia there. Yep.
Nakia, yeah. So Nakia and Shuri and Forge, like that deck was super cool. And the second one was Silver Surfer, which we all know is just absolutely brutal.
Yep.
What I don't like, and to echo Adam's comment of like it feels pay to win, it's because those cards are so impactful. And they tend to kind of dictate the meta, and that's something that you can see with Zabu. Like we'll get into it, I think, in the next little on the next turn of our creative ideas for Zabu. But if the cards weren't so impactful and if they weren't so good, I don't think it'd be that big of a deal. Like I personally decided not to spend any money on any of the kits, so I haven't bought in gold. I haven't I'm trying to stay as free as possible. But the reality is you have to buy the passes because those cards are way too impactful to not own. And it's the only real way to own to buy any cards per se.
Yeah. So at Zabu at 3 cost with the ongoing, does feel like it might be kind of telegraphing there. So do you think that there'd be kind of a response in the meta to kind of go into like heavy Enchantress, type deal, where this could really get kind of out of hand, and we'll brainstorm here in a couple minutes, but it's it feels like the high roll, and I think this is where Snap is right now, right? It's priority first, high roll potential next, and this is right in line with that kind of thinking. But at the same time, right, it can really, especially when you look at the kind of the good 4-drops, like if you can Cosmo something down, like you're gonna nerf them real quick if you can get that ongoing off of them. And Enchantress is a 4-drop, so the immediate follow up there, I imagine everyone should be running like Enchantress if Zabu starts popping up as popular.
And here's the funny thing, Enchantress is 4 cost, so even in the Zabu lists, there's no point not to run Enchantress because Enchantress for 2 is brutal.
But it does have some. It's definitely got potential. We talk about having Sarah in there already, and things like the Silver Surfer, and in recent interactions with like Quinjet, Moon Girl, and things like that. I've seen them start to pop up. In fact, I saw one that was like a Surfer variant that like Howling Minds was using recently, where it's the 3 drops Silver Surfer and then Moon Girl with She-Hulk. And it starts with Quinjet, and now all of a sudden your Silver Surfer tech is just spiced up that much more, and it's like holy, like the top end of that is just nuts.
And that's the fun part of Marvel Snap. Like there's certain things you could do that feel so crazy, but at the same time, like if your opponent's just gonna play, I don't know, Galactus, then who cares? Like there's so many ins and outs and ways to deal with stuff. But that's something that I like about the game is it feels like even though your deck could be very degenerate and you can have these really crazy plays, there's always going to be like a really neat line in between where it's like it doesn't matter if you have a Devil Sword for 50 or 5 Devil Swords. Shang-Chi exists.
Mm-hmm.
Shang-Chi exists, right?
Yeah.
So there's ways to go around that. But yeah, it's there's definitely really crazy things you can do. Quinjet into Moon, and that's really fun. I have a really cool deck idea that I want to pitch to you guys once we get to the next turn. Adam, what do you think about Zabu?
I think he looks like a lot of fun for sure. And like, I guess a question right away is like, with Zabu in your deck, are you maybe really just hoping to go Zabu into just 4 drops? Like, is
yes?
Are you playing anything higher than 4? Are you playing even 1 6-drop just as like that win con, like maybe leader or something still, or is it just 4 drops?
For me, I think once we get into the next turn, I'll go into it pretty hard.
Let's do that. Let's get into turn 4 brainstorming decks for Zabu. And I, you know what? I suppose it says I wrote first thoughts, but we just gave them in turn 3. That's fine. Turn 4, we're brainstorming here. So what I wanted to do here is first let's talk about so Zabu. 4 costs get -2 or now 1 cost. Let's take a quick look, just very quickly here at the some of the potential 4 drops that we're talking about that can be reduced to 1.
They can't be reduced to 1, right? They'll be reduced to 2. They can be reduced up to 1 if you have
the minimum 1. Yes, that's right. They're 2. Yeah. That's right. You know, I'm taking the 2 in the middle and going to 1. My math is not working. So they're 2 drops.
It's all good. Okay, so 2 things. Number 1, Zabu Mystique is a thing. Zabu Sarah would be a thing. But the 4 cost cards that I think are insane, and this is where my theory crafting goes nuts. I personally played a lot of Sarah, discard Sarah or value Sarah. That card played Strong Guy, which is a 4 cost that becomes a 10. Yeah. It played Hell Cow, which is a 4/6 that becomes, in this point 2. You play discard outlets. You could play into Apocalypse. You can play Dracula, which is also a 4. So you can pump your Apocalypse and then drop it to Dracula, which would cost you 2. You can easily fit Shang-Chi. You can fit Enchantress, obviously, and then you could also play some 1 and 2s that are valuable, things like Moon Knight and whatever. If you want to play like a discard shell. So I think for me. Discard Zabu is what I'm going to be trying first, because the fact that you have Hell Cow, Shang-Chi, Dracula, Strong Guy, like that's just so much value. And thinking about it now, you can't really play a Strong Guy if you're playing Apocalypse. But anyways, it doesn't matter. You could play Infinite and who cares, right?
So the first thing that comes to mind when I see Zabu and 4 drops is Mr. Negative, right? How can we exploit Mr. Negative in the most fun way here? So you have Zabu reducing Mr. Negative to a 2 cost. So on turn 4, you can play 2 4 drops. And if you play Mr. Negative and follow that up with Crystal, now you can shuffle. You take your hand and you shuffle it, and you draw 3 new cards that are immediately impacted by Mr. Negative. So you can add on your higher end. You have your Iron Man and things of that nature. So all the things that Negative Surfer and such already do well, you're right there with them. Dracula is one of those other cards that even in. I think Dracula is starting to show up as one of those good cards that are just there because they're so good. And if you have that top end, it just goes into that deck. It goes into, there's like a Kazoo variant right now that runs, right? It's Kazoo with Dracula and Infinite, because you're just 1 drops and then you turn into a 20. And Adam, to your point, to your point earlier, I would run Infinite because I would run Dracula if for no other reason is than to dump the board of all my 4 drops and just have Infinite there available for Dracula to just poop on people.
That totally makes sense.
And to add to that idea of like Dracula and all that, like I've been playing the Dracula Kazoo deck. And I think I've been trying it, but another one, like Khazar is a 4 drop.
Yeah, that was going to be one of the ones I was going to say. What do you feel about like Squirrel Girl, Khazar, Zabu, something like that?
Typhoid Mary? Typhoid Mary is a 4 cost. She's a 10
Mm-hmm.
for 4. She
Yeah.
works well with Enchantress, which turns her off. You can play whatchamacallit. There's Atuna or Akuma. I can't remember his name. It's the 4 cost for 10 that at the end of the turn, if there's something else on the point,
Yep.
he gets destroyed. You can
That
play
is
that.
Atuma. Wow. Atuma.
Atuma, yeah. So Atuma, you can go 0 Atuma on turn 5. You can literally go 0 Atuma and something else. Like I think that Zabu is going to have a massive, widespread effect on the game.
Mm-hmm. Some of the things that I think get a little cards that are overlooked because they're 4 costs that immediately become a little better here. My first thought goes to Crossbones.
Yeah, Crossbones is great.
Crossbones for 2 would be nice. Yeah.
Right, Crossbones for 2. All of a sudden, that sparks a little more joy than usual. I was playing a kind of control-y build deck with that focused on Sunspot, Storm, flooding a zone, and then dropping Crossbones onto the Storm zone to kind of lock that up, and then control and see if you can't drop either Sunspot and Infinite onto the other one to control 2 zones and pick up a win like that. But so things like Crossbow, you have your value cards all of a sudden become that much better because they're 2-drop. So I look at Jessica Jones as a 2-drop, just is super mind blowing. Not everyone has rescue. Rescue, right? Yeah. And I have Omega Red and Warpath all of a sudden become a lot more achievable because they can be played, in larger quantities and kind of, in much earlier.
Wong, Shuri are also 4 costs.
Yes. Yep. I got Wong, Jubilee, Spider-Man. If you have a control build, I believe in there.
Okay, how about that? This one might be far-fetched, but I think could be a lot of fun if you can pull it off. If you can go Zabu, Moon Girl, Darkhawk, Rock Slide, Darkhawk, Rock Slide.
Oh man.
Darkhawk is so good.
That's what I'm actually going to try first. Yeah, when I get my hands on Zabu.
I picked up Rock Slide in the token shop just to hold to hold on to it to get to so someday I'll get to Collector's Reserve that opens a Series 5 card. We'll see how it goes. But definitely, I believe there's a on reveal pile type deck that works. You have Absorbing Man as a 4 cost, so now you can do Wong and Absorbing Man and things of that nature. Sandman is a 4 cost here. All of a sudden, you mentioned Typhoid Mary. Patriot builds now can use Thing and things like that.
I think for the 4 cost thing, we're going to see a lot more Sandman because right now a lot of decks are doing this like plan of flooding the board. So we're going to see a lot more Sandman going around, and you can see it now. A lot of Electro Ramp decks, like the deck you were playing, are playing Sandman because of how good that card is at limiting just absolutely horrendous board positions. Sandman's good.
Yes.
Being able to go Sandman, Red Skull, and like Magneto is so good.
It is very good. Even in like I run Sandman in Hella specifically for that. Right, if you can slow the game down, you can set up your combos there. And let me tell you how long it took me to realize what Invisible Woman did, because I was not there for a good long time. I had to watch a video, and then I was like, oh my god, it makes all the sense in the world. But that holding the reveal until the end of the game, so you have to think about sequencing and things like that. But if you play if you metaphorically play your cards right, you can even stack like a Mystique in that sequence in order to reveal if you have a card or whatever, you can place Mystique in the right order after Invisible Woman to trigger on the other effect of a card that you played on turn 6. But you really got to think ahead, and things really got to happen there for you. Adam, any further brainstorm thoughts here on Zabu before we move forward?
No, I think we covered a good chunk of it. Like I said, I'm excited to see if I can abuse Darkhawk with it.
You will be able to.
Of course, yeah.
It's so good. It's so good.
I do think I don't think it's all 4 drops entirely, right? I would be trying to get I've been really loving Psylocke in there, and I think Sunspots made a lot of sense for especially if you get into like surfer builds, and I think Zabu is going to be right there where the gaps in your resource spending are like inherent. It kind of makes sense to have Sunspot in there, because if you know that you're going to spend, right, you're going to drop a 1 drop, not a 2 drop, and maybe a 3 drop. You're automatically getting that value out of Sunspot, and then you go to turn 4, you might only drop, you might have 1 resource left over, and turn 5 you might have 2 before turn 6 dropping like 2 other heroes there. Sunspot all of a sudden is like 8, 9 and can win you a location.
Sunspot is the best 1 drop in the game. If you were to ask my opinion on that, like I think Sunspot is just, there's no downside to him. Like he's unaffected by a lot of things.
Yep.
Obviously, it's kind of like playing. You were mentioning Human Torch. Human Torch is a 1 cost. Warmonger is a problem, but like outside of that, Sunspot is just amazing.
Yeah. And you see kind of this. I think part of the good part about the game is that balance there. It's so the game is so brief in itself that the balance is almost inherent. Like you either have your good stuff there or someone's going to drop a Killmonger, and it is what it is. But even Kazoo decks have gotten away from like all 1 drops. Yep. And that's the counter to Killmonger, is just you add the good stuff there.
Yeah, Dracula Infinite, kill that Killmonger.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why we talk about those cards. They're so good. They're not even build-arounds. They're just in there, like Arrow, She-Hulk. Right? These are cards that are just good and probably deserve a slot no matter what you're building. So let's go on to our next turn 5. Thoughts on the game, good and bad. Adam, why don't you lead us off here?
Well, right off the bat, the game's a blast to play. Like I think we all agree on that, and that's why we're all here. Like we can all acknowledge that this game is phenomenal. I love how quick the games are. Like the fact that it's just it's so snappy. 6 turns and you're done. On to the next one. It's perfect for my ADHD. Just those quick little hits of dopamine.
Shawn, tell me about.
Actually, Pat, I don't want to go off. So I have a really interesting take on my thoughts for the game. Like I mentioned earlier, I like Ben Brode. I like what he's doing. One thing I do not like in card games, and I've never liked it, is high variance that is out of player control. So that means, I think back to Hearthstone, a game that I was really into. Yogg Saron just being like, hey, we're going to randomly cast spells until, things happen. There's nothing worse than like landing into a location and have someone like reveal ego and you're like, oh, well, I guess I don't get to play. There are certain locations that, like, if you're playing a destroy deck and you open up and it's Wakanda and the guy goes armor, well, okay, perfect. There goes the game. So the locations, I find like some of them are really interesting, and the same thing could be like, there's locations where every time you play something, it gets destroyed, and then you just go Deadpool, win.
Yes. Love those. When Volmore shows up.
Cloning Vats Cloning Vats into Venom is pretty nutty.
Yeah.
Sinister location and going like, make 2 Deadpools and then kill them both and then make 2, so there's some interesting stuff, and that's fun game experience. But as far as like competitive and stuff, and that's going to, once we get to after turn 6, we'll go into that maybe a bit more, but I like the game. I like the stock.
I want to, so we had talked a little bit about this off air beforehand. So I counter you here. If you compare this to Hearthstone, right? The RNG is like to an extreme level. You have your variants, but like Hearthstone will insert cards into the game that aren't even part of your deck at some point. So sometimes you just get a card and things happen. The only time something like that kind of happens is I believe the mansion location will drop like a random card, but other than that, you're still playing with either the cards in your deck or some other kind of like obstacle. But I think the beauty of the game here is that if you don't like what you're seeing, you can just leave.
Yeah,
you can just
retreat.
stop,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
You're 3 minutes of your life, right? Is the balance in the game. Like you can escape, lose a cube, and avoid the bad
Yeah.
game experience that you would fear at that point. So as soon as I do it, as soon as I get that the location that you can't play cards here, unless I'm on movement, then I'm out. You know, and if it's the locations that immediately affect me, I'm out there as well. You know, if I don't, if I draw bad, I escape. If I, you know, I have, I think I ran the stats. I have like 300 concessions like on my own. I'm like 2,000 plus games in there, and I've escaped you know, hundreds of times at this point, and there's no feel bad. There's no downside to it. And I think that
I agree.
balances itself out.
I agree
there.
with you too. Yeah, I agree with you to the point where, you know, if you're in a very unfavorable position and that, you know, you find that you essentially like the game is playing against you in a way, you could just get out. You can just get out, and that's totally fine. And that's kind of, I think, their way that they balanced it, because if not, it would feel very unfair sometimes. And, you know, there's cases where you're playing against someone who's playing Agent 13 or you know, Cable, and they just happen to like their deck does not have Shang-Chi. They just happen to draw it and blow you out. And that's whatever. That's not a big thing. But I come from a very competitive background. I like knowing what I'm doing, and I like planning for it. So whenever I see like on the third reveal, it's the one that breaks everything else on the map, you're like, or that one that lets you draw like 3 cards and then destroys your deck. You know, like fills your hand, destroys your deck. There's certain cards where you're like, come on, you know. But I have to also check myself, because I love competitive card games. It's what I invest all of my time into. So I have to check, like, okay, well, you know, this game is also bringing card games to the forefront of. You know, and it's letting a lot of players explore the game, players who aren't necessarily big card games, and it's kind of opening an audience, or it's subjecting a lot of people to card games, which I love, and I think everybody should try. I think it's the most fun thing you could do with your time is play card games. So that's one of the things that I love about Snap, is it's going to bring, and this is with a license, with Ben Brode, knowing, you know, that he loves making these kinds of games, it's going to bring card games to a lot of people that wouldn't have played it outside of that. And I think that's a huge commendation to put on Ben. I think that they did a really good thing there. The game's well balanced. The things that feel unfair are being balanced, like, you know, Sarah was nerfed and a few of the cards were nerfed. And that just shows also that they're responsive. They understand what's too good, what's affecting the game too much, and they're balancing things out as they go, which is encouraging. It's none of that like, there's no problem, and then, like, you know, 6 months later the card is still broken.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is really depressing. So
we haven't experienced that before.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, never experienced that. In 20 years of playing card games, never.
I've got my 3 elements. Let's use that. So, you know, everything's rainbows and unicorns, except when it comes to some of the negative sides of the game. So, Shawn, you talked about some of the RNG. My beef is with the collector's reserve system.
It says the guy who's collector level 2,500.
Yeah, no, I'm totally. Yeah, I am a degenerate. I clearly have a gambling problem.
I love you,
but
I love you.
If I would, if the collector's reserves, I loved the first 1,000 collector's levels, because you got what you got on the cards here. A collector's reserve after 1,000, you can either get a new card, a variant, 100 collector's tokens, credits, gold, and is there one other thing that you might be, and titles
and titles.
Yeah, and titles. So that's 6 different things. You get one collector's reserve every 12 collector's levels, and you have a 1 in 6 chance of getting a new card. And of those new cards, they talk about their Series 5 and Series 4, and then pools 3, 2, and 1. 1 and 2, you should have. I believe you can get the complete collection as you go. Pool 3 takes some people upwards to collector's level 4,000 in order to complete Pool 3 through through the free-to-play collection reserve system, just grinding through and opening those boxes. Series 5 is like super rare cards. So like I may never see a Series 5 card in my life. I don't know if I'll ever get one. I hope that they change that in the future, because that is frustrating, because I'm invested. I love the mechanics of the game. I love how it plays. I understand limiting the access to a point, but it is definitely a feel bad when I pop like a friggin' baby thing variant, or at 2,500 plus collector's level. Like, I don't need that. I want to complete my cards here.
And one thing that's also frustrating is, like, it happened to me a couple days ago where I opened like 3 or 4 collectors in a row just because I had a lot of gold, and I said, oh, screw it, let's just all the bonuses that they gave us for the holidays. And I ended up getting an Abomination variant, which I already had a bomb. I ended up getting a I can't remember what it was. It was like a Lockjaw variant, and then I ended up getting another variant of another thing. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. Number one, you can only get variants of cards you already have through the collector's thing. Change that. Make it so you can get a variant of something you don't own, because getting new cards is like, the reason I don't like the collector's system is because for a long time I was ranking up and I was playing my destruction deck because that's all I had, and then I would go up against these guys who were playing Patriot Ultron, and I would want to rip my eyes out. Yeah. Because there's nothing more oppressive than someone going like Patriot into Khazar into Blue into Ultron, and you're like, there's nothing I could have done. Like, I don't have these cards, and we've all played card games competitively. If we show up at a Fab tournament and you're playing Oldhim against someone else playing Oldhim back in the good old days of double fusing into Ulkanold. Well, if you don't have the Pulse of Eisenloft and they do, you're at a disadvantage. Right. And that's what I don't like, is that system. It's oftentimes, and then it's bad, but it's creating FOMO, which I don't like. And Adam pointed out to this earlier. Although it is not pay to win, it is pay to possibly get the cards that might help you win. And I don't like that. Yeah. I'd rather just have a store where you're like, hey, this card is 500 gold. Perfect. How much is 500 gold? $10. Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you. I'd much rather that than the system they're using now. But that's coming from a competitive card game player.
So, okay, to play devil's advocate for a second, because I agree with you guys. Like, the system they have, like, it does leave something to be desired. But it does seem to me like they do want, to some extent, create that TCG feel, right? Like, you have to open the card you want, and they're trying to make some cards. And I think that's rarer than others, and I think that's cool. The piece that might be missing then is we need, and I've already had people point out there are issues with this as well with the Infinity Split model, but the idea of maybe trading cards or something like that.
Yeah.
I've seen talk about that. I don't know how would that be implemented. Is that something that is this capable of having either a trade or, I guess, I don't know, an auction type market for this kind of thing?
I mean, I'll take the lead on that. I personally don't think they will. And a massive part of that is that the game is using a license that is by Disney. It's using the Marvel license. It is extremely aimed at children, and therefore I think it would be predatory to use some form of sub-market for it. The last game that tried to do that was Artifact, a game that I really like the design of, but actually the auction system killed the game. Everybody's like, I'm not spending $40 on like this one hero. No, get out of here.
Diablo 3 almost went down for the same thing. Real money auction house.
Exactly.
It's a dangerous place.
It's a dangerous place, and it's especially I think that card games are so beneficial, especially to young people. I remember me being a 10-year-old and playing Yu-Gi-Oh, and going to my local card store to play Yu-Gi-Oh. It was such a big part of me growing up. It was such a formative experience for me. And this was, me buying like a booster a week and trading with people and stuff. But if anybody could show up and just buy the cards, also it creates a predatory market where people would be like, oh, I'll trade you this for this, and then it's like, well, that's not equal value, but the audience is young, so they might not know. If I was the guys at Second Breakfast, I would stay the hell away from that. I think it would not be beneficial for the game. But there are ways that they can make cards more accessible, and there are ways that, like challenges. If you accomplish this, you get. They're doing it with the tokens now, tokens in the shop, and that's because they had to find a new way to bring more interesting stuff, more interesting ways to get new cards. And when the token shop came out, I was ecstatic because I had 6,000 coins that we were all given.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, and with those
for the token shop.
Yeah, for the token shop. Yeah, and with those 6,000, I bought Dracula, Death.
Yeah.
And something, and like a few other cards that I was like, these are really important cards for the meta, right?
Yeah, I think the token shop is a great way to do that. I think 100 tokens on a collector's reserve is a little BS. I think that's going to be up a little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah. The value.
Because you're basically right. If we're still talking, if we maintain that ratio of like 1 in 6, give me 500 tokens, so that if I open them twice we're talking now 12 times 12 at 144 collector's levels, I will get one Series 3 card, and I won't feel bad about that either. It's like I will have ground. Right, I will have done the thing and gotten my levels up and gotten my credits and upgraded and have worked my way through, and I will have opened a dozen collector's reserves, and I should feel okay about that. And the highs are really high, but the lows, right?
The lows are so low.
The lows are low for sure.
Nothing like opening a collector's reserve and getting like 200 of the energy cubes or whatever they're called. Or whatever it was, 500, and going like, no, that's not what I want. This doesn't even pay back for itself. Give me something valuable.
I want this potential fun edit for Adam here, but is it Second Dinner?
I think it's called Second Breakfast.
Second
Dinner, Second Breakfast? I don't know.
I think it's Second Dinner. I just want every reference of Second Breakfast to just be now Second Dinner. Just over it.
Let's see, maybe I can do that.
Isn't it Second Breakfast?
I'm looking at their official site right now. I got Marvel, New Verse, and Second Dinner.
Oh, okay. It's called Second Dinner, guys. So, you know what? Do the snap bit there. Second Dinner, and then just like
yeah.
I was sitting on top of every time.
See how much you go. That's all right. I was just looking at that.
I just watched Lord of the Rings, man. Like, give me a break. It's Second Breakfast.
Oh, good. It's all right. I've got a coworker who does Second Breakfast, and I can't stand it. Okay, so.
Sorry.
Gold. So the other thing is gold. I'm a little iffy on gold. I like gold. I like gold to renew daily missions. I like gold.
I like gold.
But I think the only thing that I have used gold for is to renew daily missions. I do think that the cost of a variant is a little high for my liking when it comes to the actual price of gold. So we are talking roughly, great, because the numbers never add up. So you can get 1,450 pieces of gold for $20. So you're talking roughly either $10 or $20 for a given variant in the store at that point. And I haven't met one that I feel. There's one. I think it's Death. There's a variant on Death that is like incredible. That if I saw that, I would snap it right up. The Dracula variant that is Dracula. Yeah. Like I'd probably grab that.
Nice. It's so nice.
And I've seen a couple of people show up with that. So I'm new-ish to Marvel Comics. So I have. They're not associated, but I have a subscription to Marvel Unlimited, which is their online comics app. So it's like the Netflix for Marvel Comics. So they got 30,000 titles It's amazing. Hashtag sponsor us, Marvel. Those like the art, right? The art is definitely the collection part of that. And getting those art variants is something that's really appealing. And I just got the Blueprint Cerebro variant, and I was pumped about that. I don't even have I didn't have a Cerebro deck, and I was like, this is cool. This is a Series 3. It's a variant. I'm not and it's all it's personal preference at that point. I'm not a huge fan of the Pixel, Chibi, or Baby variants of them, but give me something cool like that. I'll be like, yeah, all right, sweet. Like I'll bling out my deck all day. I do think that they need a lock a variant option when you're deck building. Because if when you build a new deck and put a character in there, it's like the base, unless you select the one. But if you get a different one, like you have to manually swap it there, and it's tracked individually and everything. So it's good for boosters for upgrading, but you can kind of lose it in the weeds there a bit. Much like my rant here. So very quickly, let's move on to turn 6. No one's played Magic, so I think we'll have.
I played a lot of Magic.
I played different context here.
Magic. Oh,
yeah, boy. Turn five was it. Limbo is not a location here. Long-term hopes for Marvel Snap. Just kind of our what we'd like to see out of it. Sean, what do you got?
You're putting me on the spot. Again, I have opinions. I'm not one to keep quiet about stuff, but
we gave you a platform.
Yeah, there you go. Let's let them talk. Let's go. So I think the game is in a really good position. I think that their entry into the market has been stellar. I think that a lot of people got fed up with other digital card games, and they're finding a kind of a home in Marvel Snap. And so, this is coming from me. I've played, basically everything. I've played Gwent, I've played Hearthstone, I've played Elder Scrolls, I've played Artifact. I play every card game that ever comes out as much as I can. So yeah, I'd like to see where they take the game in the future. For now, the game runs really well. I'd like to be the collectible aspect to be more attainable, possibly, like I said, disenchanting or dusting altars for collector coins and stuff like that. Because realistically, I don't care about my Holiday Abomination. It's actually just there's so many altars in my collection that I'm like, can I just filter those guys out? Can I just remove them? I don't want them. I don't want them there at all. So I'd like to find a way to maybe manage a collection better. As new cards get brought in, it'd be good to have a search thing where you can actually search for a specific card. Maybe that's already there and I just haven't figured it out yet because I haven't looked into it.
The search function's there, yeah.
Okay, then I just haven't. You see? But yeah, so I think the games has a really good stride, and I want to see where they go with it. Because with Hearthstone, what got me out is they went way too into the RNG, and then a lot of people were like, you know what? I'm good. I'm going to take a step back, and that's when I lost interest as well.
Adam, long-term hopes.
I want to. I guess I brought up the possibility of a marketplace or something beforehand. You guys made really good points about why there's certain reasons why that probably wouldn't thrive. I do hope to see cards be more accessible. I think, and I think that's everybody's on everybody's wish list right now is some way to just fill out the collection a little bit easier. And maybe there is still some way to maybe trade variants or something like that. I think that would be cool. Like if your buddy's got something you want and you've got something they want, like a way to at least be able to facilitate that without giving people the opportunity to exploit each other would be cool. I also hope I want to see some, maybe not like a pro scene, because I definitely with some of the variants in the game, like to Sean's point, maybe you see Ego as a location, and yeah, that's just straight up variants. There's nothing you can do at that point. But I do think some of the locations are interesting balancing points as well. I'll counter argue Wakanda, for example. The fact that it shuts down a destruction deck, I think that's an interesting balancing perspective. Maybe it's not balancing, but it's the game itself has it's something you have to play around. Like a location isn't always going to be favorable to your deck, and it's if you're trying to grind for those high level wins, like maybe you do have to find ways to win when the conditions are less favorable. But despite that, seeing some sort of support for events, and I think the studio has hinted that we are going to get some sort of official events moving forward, but something like that would be fun. Like just like even on Magic Arena, how they have events and things you can play in that are just more high ranked than just playing on the ladder. I think something like that would be a lot of fun.
Oh, I get you. Like an open of some sort. I don't know if I'll say this. So my long-term hopes for the game are for it to maintain. So where it is right now and how it's brought in so many people, I think it's at a really good spot. They can very easily turn this into like an overly complex, like min-max type of deal where your top end is going to be the spikes that are just just do whatever that the most highly optimized thing there is there. And I don't know if I know what you're talking about when it comes to like the open and all that stuff. I don't know if this is the game for it, at least right now. And I think to get there, I would think they would have to expand things to where my justification for being okay with some of that variance would start to come out the window. If they made the games longer, they added rounds, they did kind of best 2 out of 3, they added locations, turns, whatever to make it into a more competitive game. I think you start taking away from what makes it so mass appealing there.
And you don't necessarily have to make that a mandatory thing, though. Like, you just make it an optional thing. Like, if you want to, you can participate in this. But 100%, it has to be a casual fun first and foremost. I completely agree. That's what gets the mass appeal of the audience.
It bridges board game and card game in a way that is, when the game came out, I was working on a game, and there's a game called Smash Up, which is a board game, and where Marble Snap, definitely took some inspiration from, and games like Air, Land, and Sea, all great games, and I think that it has that board game quality, but it also has the DNA of a great card game, which is really hard to get together. So I agree. I think it has to be it has to fit a casual crowd. But it also it has the potential, and I think that as the three of us, like, we travel to play card games competitively. I think we all want to be like, can I be competitive at this? But I don't think that's their focus. I think that might be something that we get later, which I'm looking forward to. I think it would be a lot of fun. But for the time being, I think it's all about getting people in and sharing the love, man, sharing the game, and getting people to experience something new and different and cool.
Yeah, I agree.
I think I'm getting right. We all come from different spots. We all came to Flesh and Blood, and Flesh and Blood really scratches my competitive itch.
Oh yeah.
But there was a time where I was in EDH super hard, and that EDH in Magic in its like purest form is that community driven social game where everyone's having a good time, and they're playing the game, but even if you have 3 other opponents, you're having a good time. And once you get into like CEDH, you stop having a good time.
Fun. Yeah, right? You stop having fun. Yeah.
I find that I'm scratching my kind of social casual itch that I was missing from EDH, that I don't get from Flesh and Blood, but I'm not seeking that from Flesh and Blood, right? I'm getting that from Marvel Snap, and to that end, it's a little, the rank in the ladder is a touch frustrating for me, because I know I'm not there for one reason or another on that, creeping up that ladder there. And I think part of that the brevity of the game and that variance kind of makes a ladder system almost right. Like I'd be curious to see how they look at that moving forward, and how generous or not they are with increasing those ranks, because if it is right, how much of that is in your control, and you start into this kind of like, I'm escaping 4 times to and losing a cube and winning a 4 cube game. and that ends up being your system there, where that's, is that fun? I don't know.
I mean, that's interesting. It's interesting, and I think you make a really good point. It needs to be fun. It needs to be a fun experience. And if you start thinking about it too much, like I really tried to grind and see, like for about 4 days, I'm like, I want to get to 60, and I managed to get to 64. But to do so, I had to play a deck that I didn't really want to play. Right. I had to be really smart with my snaps and be smart with when I retreat. And I love competitive card games, but I don't feel like that Marvel Snap is the game for that. I get my fix from Fab. That's where I get my competitive fix, staring a board state down and taking 5 minutes to really, in an untimed game in the finals, trying to really figure out, like, that's where I get all of that out. Marvel Snap for me is more of a casual game. It's a lot of fun though. It's a lot of fun.
I get the most fun I have in Marvel Snap is Bar Sinister when that's a hot location, and I think that's why, like, I scratch my itch. That's that's my big splashy thing. And and they nerfed Onslaught, but it's still like it's additive instead of multiplicative. But I was you do the Nightcrawler combo with Blue Marvel and Onslaught, and everyone you get like 2,000 plus in all your zones, and now it's 200 plus in all your zones. You still win.
Troy.
Yeah. It just doesn't look as bad. No, but like, that's big, splashy, fun kind of thing. You had to set it up. There's, it's kind of that, it's a clunky combo to have to make work. But when it does, there's that dopamine that comes, that rush that happens when you get it off, and then you just, it is what it is. No one's got bad feelings, and you move on to the next one. I think that's where it's best, and that's why I love the game. I've been grinding the crap out of it, and obviously putting some I'm getting my bling out of it. I'm searching for the stuff, right? Give me more of that. That's what I want. My long-term hope is to just more accessible for all that fun stuff there, and not have to worry so much about like grinding the ladder for for a title or a achievement or something. All right, I think that's gonna wrap it up here for the pilot episode of After Turn 6. So we're gonna do the plugs. You can find us on the Combat Chain YouTube channel. If you search at the Combat Chain, we'll come up there. Be sure to like, subscribe, and click the bell notification to know when the latest episode is uploaded of the After Turn 6 podcast, and of course the Combat Chain podcast. We are available on all audio platforms wherever you stream your podcasts. The best way to support us is through our Patreon. You can find us at www.patreon.com/thecombatchain and can subscribe to us there. It helps us tremendously to keep the lights and mics up and running. We just recently revamped it, and in fact, we'll probably revamp it further with the addition of the Marvel Snap content happening here. But if you like what we're doing anywhere, support us. That is the most direct and easiest way to support us, and we appreciate anything you can do on that end. We are all on Twitter. You can find the podcast at After Turn 6, the word 6. You can find Adam at FumTooleryTCG. You can find Shawn at Shawn Hill CG, and you can find myself at Pat Smash Good. I don't have a clever way to end the show, so I think I'm going to close with my remark that I said in the thing. It is always smart to retreat, but it is more fun to snap and play for 8 cubes. That'll do it. I don't know. It's a wrap.
Yeah, it's a wrap. Thank you.